This is Faith Encouraged with Father Barnabas Powell. Homilies designed to help you live a purposeful and faith-filled life in Jesus Christ. Here's Father Barnabas.
They hadn't spoken in about 25 years. You see, something happened at that time, about 25 years ago, and they had had an argument. And for 25 years, each held the grudge against the other. They were angry at one another. But it so happened that they were in the same place at the same time, 25 years later, and they confronted one another. And something amazing occurred. They remembered the anger, but they couldn't remember why they were angry. They remembered being upset, but for the life of them, they couldn't remember why they were upset with one another. They remembered the feelings of rejection and hurt, but they couldn't remember why they felt rejected and hurt. You see, dear ones, these two brothers learned a powerful lesson that day, and it's the powerful lesson of our Sunday of Forgiveness today, where we remember the expulsion of Adam from paradise. Notice the church doesn't call it the expulsion of Adam and Eve, because it's understood that the man and the woman were so one that one name sufficed for both. You see, God wasn't kidding when He made male and female and united them together, bone from my bone and flesh from my flesh. Henceforth a man will leave his father and his mother, and he will cleave to his wife, and these two will become one flesh. One name sufficed for both. No wonder it has been the purpose of the enemy since the beginning to so give us the inability to forgive, to keep us apart, because we were made to be together. To drive wedges in relationships and break friendships and break even our relationship with God. To be so misunderstanding of God's goodness and God's kindness and God's love for us that we stew and dwell in misery and anger and inattentiveness most of our lives. Relationships broken, hearts broken, anger and bitterness taking root like a cancer. And yet the church, on the cusp of arguably the most serious, the most focused, the most spiritually laborious part of our church year, Great Lent, stands before us. Folks, we're moments away from stepping onto this focused path. We're moments away from being given no excuse why we aren't paying attention to our spiritual lives, because the church is absolutely starting today going to inundate our lives with invitations to get serious about our faith and to no longer take it for granted. The church is going to absolutely lavish on us chances and opportunities, and every one of us have the chance to step into it and to take it seriously. Once again, it's cycled back around into the year. Once again, you have another chance to embrace the purposefulness of true and normal orthodoxy. And in that opportunity, we are confronted with this Sunday, the Sunday of forgiveness. At the end of this service, we'll do Forgiveness Vespers. And I will look at you in the face, as I do every Sunday, multiple times during the service. When you see Father come out and bow to you, do you know what he's saying? For those who love us and those who hate us, forgive me. I've told you the story before about how shocked I was to find out that somebody hated me. It shocked me. It was amazing. Me? Have you ever met my mother? Just listen to what she says about me. She thinks I'm wonderful. How could you hate me? And yet it's true. And so the church confronts the reality of our lives, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, with three distinct, not suggestions, three distinct, not if you happen to get around to it, but three distinct paths to spiritual freedom. Those two brothers spent 25 years being furious with one another, never speaking to one another, and when they got to the opportunity to confront one another, they couldn't remember why they were mad. They just remembered they were angry. And so the church gives us the invitation to spiritual freedom from the cancer of bitterness and unforgiveness. She gives us a warning, she gives us wisdom, and she gives us the way to escape the horrible cancer of unforgiveness. The warning she gives us is very plain. If you do not forgive one another, God will not forgive you. Now, folks, I don't know how Jesus could make it any plainer than that. If you forgive other people, God will forgive you. If you don't forgive other people, God won't forgive you. Any questions? It's not hard to understand. And do you know the reason why that we put ourselves in that position? Because there is nothing like someone who won't forgive that never sees their own need for forgiveness. You see, it's only when my heart is tenderized by the reality of my own need to be forgiven that I can extend that same mercy to others. If your heart is so hard, if your spirit is so hard and so unforgiving, trust me, that same spirit is what's keeping you from asking for forgiveness. And trust me, brothers and sisters, you need to be forgiven, just like you need to forgive. Those two realities are so inextricably tied together that your ability to actually be orthodox depends on your ability to be forgiving. Your ability to actually be orthodox absolutely depends on your ability to let go of the hurts of the past, to let go of the mistakes that others have made to you, to let go of the hurtful things that others have said, so that you can then yourself let go of the mistakes you've made by the grace of God. The warning is, forgive and you'll be forgiven. Don't forgive and you won't. The wisdom is very simple. When you fast. Wait a second. It didn't say if you fast. It didn't say, oh, by the way, when you remember to fast. No. When you fast. You see, ladies and gentlemen, normal Orthodox Christians fast. That's what normal Orthodox Christians do, because they've begun to understand the wisdom behind fasting, that if I can finally control what my belly wants, I might be able to control what my heart wants. If I can truly discipline and get the reins of my life in my own hands, instead of allowing my desires to drive me. The wisdom of understanding the power of the gift of fasting is absolutely essential for a normal Orthodox life. And so the church in her wisdom calls me to fast during Great Lent. Father Barnabas, what are the rules for fasting? Swing and a miss. That's not the issue, folks. When you fast, what should I do? You want some wisdom? You want some instruction? Come see me. But I assume all of you folks are intelligent, literate individuals. I know you can do this. The basic wisdom of fasting in the Orthodox faith during Great Lent, we avoid animal byproducts. We avoid meat and dairy during Great Lent. Father, all the time? Yeah. But that's hard. Okay. I don't know if I can do it. Okay. Will God be mad at me if I don't? I'm sorry, folks, you don't have that kind of power over God's mood. God's fine. God's not the one with the problem here. You are. God's okay. Don't worry about God. Folks, don't worry about God. God's okay. All of this wisdom is about reorienting your way of thinking so that your life measures up to what a normal Orthodox Christian life is. And a normal Orthodox Christian life says, I discipline my desires so that I can truly learn how to want what is truly what I need. And so during Great Lent, I discipline my appetites so that my spiritual appetite might hunger for what it's the true food that I have, and that is God Himself. Most of all, folks, I hope you fast from sin. That's the biggest thing. Don't do sinning during Great Lent. Just don't sin. That'd be great. The rumbling of your stomach will help you remember your motivation for doing that. So avoid the meat and dairy. If you want to go further, cut back your meals to only one regular meal a day and maybe 2 smaller meals during the week. Or if you want to cut back to a meal in the morning and a meal in the evening and cut out your afternoon meal and save that money and donate it to the poor. Be wise during this Great Lent and make a decision to embrace the wisdom of the faith, not the legislation, and fast this Great Lent. So we've heard the warning, if you forgive, you'll be forgiven. We've heard the wisdom, when you fast. And now, the way of Orthodox Great Lent. Lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust corrupts, and where thieves cannot break in and steal. For where your treasure is, your heart will be also. As we step into Great Lent, starting this afternoon with Forgiveness Vespers, and going into Clean Monday, we're doing the spiritual spring cleaning of our lives by asking each other for forgiveness, by making sure that our houses are devoid of the meat and dairy. You've had 2 weeks to get rid of all the meat. And now you've had a week to get rid of all the dairy. And now we're going to step into Clean Monday, spiritually clean, and ready to do the labor of the marathon spiritual preparation for Pascha. And the way we're going to do that, precious friends, is we're going to so allow the wisdom of the faith to reorient our priorities that we will treasure eternal things more than temporary things. We will treasure those things that last forever more than we will treasure the things that fade away. I was so excited this past week when I got into my car and I turned the engine on and the heat wouldn't work. I was so upset. But it's a temporary thing. It's a car. How many of you know cars break down? Greg, thank God. Cars break down. Our possessions get old. Even my physical body. It wears out. The foolishness of treasuring the temporary over the eternal is the absolute spiritual destruction of our lives. Learning the Orthodox way of valuing eternal things more than temporary things is the reason why the church will give us church service after church service after church service to reorient how we spend our time, to reorient how we invest our money, to reorient how we use our talents for the glory of God. The 3 disciplines of Great Lent, prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. During Great Lent, give to the poor. During Great Lent, share your resources with the body of Christ. During Great Lent, focus yourself on holding your possessions loosely in your hands so that you might become truly a normal Orthodox Christian. So we've heard the warning. Forgive and you'll be forgiven. We've heard the wisdom. When you fast. And now we understand the way. Allow normal orthodoxy to reorient your attitude toward your possessions and your time, and lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moth and rust does not corrupt, and where thieves do not break in and steal. Because, my precious ones, where your treasure is, that's where your heart is. Blessed Lent.
Father Barnabas is the priest at the Saints Raphael, Nicholas, and Irene Greek Orthodox Church in Cumming, Georgia. Find out more at faithencouraged.org. That's faithencouraged.org.